What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock and what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to break down what's going on with the share price of NIO and why tomorrow is going to be a massive day as Jerome Powell is going to be speaking. Now, before I break anything down about NIO, before I get into any more details, I do have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner. Make sure you take none of this as financial advice whatsoever. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last thing is, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link down below in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks, each worth up to $3,000. And the best part is, any could be a free NIO share. It's a limited time offer. The offer ends in just 11 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So I want to break this down, guys. What's happening to NIO stock? Right now, I basically noticed it went to a very important level I mentioned, and it did exactly what I predicted. So what did I tell you guys? I told you all we had this head and shoulders like setup on NIO, right? We have the left shoulder, and you don't have to worry about this candle right here because this was actually a glitch. So we had the left shoulder, the head, then the right shoulder, and then the data came out for NIO's deliveries for the month of January, and NIO did not do as well. So then I predicted that NIO would have a downtrend, and that is what NIO has been doing. And then I told you in my video from yesterday, NIO would likely come down, and the key level to watch is between, I did say about 10.8, but I mentioned this could be extended to 10.6. But mainly about 10.8 is where NIO is going to try to bounce off of. The reason why I said 10.8 to 10.6 is because of this right here. 10.8 is the key support zone, but this thing did also bounce off 10.62. So we do have a demand zone like right around that range. Let me just highlight where it was. Right here between 10.8 and 10.6. And that is where we ended up seeing NIO bounce, just like this, right? In this range right here. NIO touched that zone today. We got a bounce. We did see some buyers come in, and now this thing did look like it was trying to hold this level right here above 10.8. And that is what happened. That's what I predicted. That is what ended up going down. So now the real question is NIO gonna, get a bounce, go for these gap fills one last time, or is NIO just gonna trade sideways and then come right back down? Because the selling has so much momentum, I don't expect it to make a very strong move to the upside. But we are seeing some stocks like Bed Bath & Beyond and AMC starting to push up. We are seeing some buyers come in. The buying is not dead in this market. So there is a possibility for NIO to try to get this gap fill, but the next key resistance is around this 11.3 area. And I do think NIO might try to stay around here, but whether we could get a break up or if we keep dropping down is going to depend on tomorrow and Jerome Powell. Because tomorrow at about, I believe it's, let me see, 1 p.m. almost 1 p.m., Jerome Powell is going to be speaking right here. Specifically, let me see, 12:40 p.m. So I apologize for that. Eastern time, 12:40 Eastern time, Jerome Powell is going to be speaking. And when he talks, he could actually cause the market to make a very big move. Is he going to cause the market to explode? Is he going to pump us again? It's possible. He might also crash the markets. So during his speech, I think he's going to be questioned a lot. He's going to be interviewed technically, and there's no telling what he's going to do this time. It's going to work in his favor to try to drop the markets, but I can't guarantee that because the last time he ended up pumping us. All right, so I want to make that as clear as possible. Okay, guys, please be ready. Now, I also want to note that one of the Fed speakers today, I forgot their name, they basically spoke and he said that the Fed is now a lot more open to raising the terminal funds rate, to being even more hawkish because of the strong jobs report that came out for the month of January, which in turn could even bring inflation up. So please be ready for this. Tomorrow's a big day. Jerome Powell can make or break this pump. Be ready. I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but I do believe we're going to likely see a big reaction to what he says. He's going to be speaking, be ready. There's going to be lots of noise. I also want to note that throughout the week, tomorrow at 2 o'clock p.m. Eastern Time, another Fed speaker. We have 2 more Fed speakers on Wednesday. On Thursday, more Fed speakers should be coming. Then Friday, even more Fed speakers. We have like 3 or 4 of them on Friday. So lots of Fed speakers. And then Tuesday of next week, obviously, we have CPI. That's going to be very important. My point is we have lots of stuff coming, lots of Fed speakers coming, and we know when they talk, the market tends to not react positively. So please be ready. For earnings, we have Hertz, we have Chipotle, we also have, let me see, Disney on Wednesday after the market closes with Robinhood, and then also PayPal on Thursday. That's going to be an important one. All right, so please be ready for that. This is not going to be the biggest thing coming out for the market. It's not as big as before, but it will have an effect on how the market moves. NIO, going into the NIO part of this video, I have some other important things coming out. NIO just tweeted they will soon announce their participation in the European Union's Horizon Europe Research and Innovation Program, NIO Power Products and Solutions in Europe, together with 26 partners receiving funding for further research and development. So very awesome. NIO is actually helping with energy storage systems and their development as well. Very, very awesome stuff, in my opinion, to see NIO building those partnerships. It helps them in many different European countries. So I consider that a very awesome move. Very awesome to see them working very hard to make the world a better place and to help with sustainable technologies. I just wanted to note that about NIO. But one thing that's a little bit concerning about this market is I do think the market's going to reverse soon. I'm saying that because you have to look at the extreme levels of fear and greed in the market. And I'm saying this because of the fact that we have this divergence that's developing from this end to this end. So when I say divergence, I'm talking about how if you look at the greed, which is up here, look at how the greed compared to August is way higher now. See how it's on this uptrend? It's way higher, the amount of greed. But look at the actual price of the S&P 500. There's a downtrend, right? The peak right now is lower than the peak from August. The point I'm trying to make is the market right now is likely in a topping process, and this will have an effect on most stocks out there, almost every single one, including NIO. Right here, you could see how the market tends to affect NIO, and we are seeing NIO underperform now. And that was because of the fact that they did not do too well on their deliveries. Compared to the QQQ, NIO is also not doing too well. It's also underperforming compared to Tesla and other stocks. Many of them are still quite bearish. Now, I want to actually come down to the short interest. It is still pretty flat, but it has been increasing a little bit compared to the January numbers. So we are seeing some shorts piling in. Additionally, looking at the volume, it was pretty flat. We dropped on 45 million in volume, down 2%. And also, I just want to note the short volume percentage is still a little bit low, telling us that if it is at these low levels, right, we might see a big increase in shorting. Right now, I do think a couple of days ago, the shorts were not actually having the bigger edge over the volume, but they still managed to suppress the price due to the fact that it has to do with like order blocks and things like that. I'm not going to go into the full details, but it is telling us that it is still dragging NIO's price down. And on top of that, I don't really worry too much about max pain being $11.50. It doesn't really matter too much, but we are seeing a lot of calls that were bought on NIO. Lots of calls, and a lot of the people going too hard on the calls are getting destroyed. All right? The market makers are not trying to pay out those calls. Other than that, I think I went over everything. We basically have Jerome Powell speaking, lots of Fed speakers between now and Friday, jobs data on Thursday, and finally, next week on Tuesday, we have CPI. So lots of big things coming out. What is NIO going to do? I can't really predict this. It really depends on Powell. I do think we might get a small pop, so NIO might try to go for this gap fill, get to the low 11s, because between 11.3 and this 10.8 zone, this zone right here is a very key level. You can see we had lots of volume here, lots of resistance levels that formed. So I do think that that's the next major resistance level for NIO. And if it gets a break, this was also a previous support, which is now going to become resistance. If it gets a break, I'm going to be watching this zone right here, but I don't really think it's going to happen. I think NIO tomorrow is most likely going to trade sideways, maybe go for the gap fill. But other than that, I expect lots of sideways action. And if the market does tank because of Powell or some other factor, I do expect NIO to maybe break below this and start filling some more of the gaps down here. If NIO breaks, okay, if NIO breaks this area, because this is like a gap resistance, or maybe like gap support, you could use that word. This is like a support area around the gap. This zone is why NIO is bouncing around this 10.6 area. If NIO tomorrow, or like in the future, let's just say we fill the gap up here, we trade sideways. But if NIO, I'm just warning you right now, whether it happens tomorrow or in the future, if NIO breaks 10.8, okay, if it breaks 10.6, because we have to hold 10.6, which is where the support is for this gap. If it fails and you see like 10.5, 10.5 something or whatever, it's going to come all the way down to the low 10s because this is where this giant gap is. And these gaps are like vacuums. They do have a tendency of getting filled. 9 out of 10 gaps get filled historically. And it likely will get filled if NIO does break this zone right here. So please be very, very careful in watching it. I'm not saying it has to happen tomorrow. I'm just saying it depends on Jerome Powell and future price action. But I do believe it's very likely to happen given the fact that the market's in this topping process. So for tomorrow, I do think we might fill this gap up here and trade kind of sideways here. But then if Powell does cause the market to come down, or if something else happens, like it's CPI going into next week, if NIO breaks the level, the 10.8 to 10.6 area, you got to watch that. If we break it, we're going to be tumbling all the way down to the low 10s. 10.3 is where that gap will get filled, or even lower than that, NIO could start coming down. I just wanted to note that for everyone. Please remain calm, cool, and collected, and that's basically what I have for this video. NIO to the moon because the long-term future is still incredibly bright. Because I know that, look, it's tough to hear me talk about how there is potential downside, but that is how the market moves. Remember when Tesla crashed all the way down to 100 despite its all-time high being in the 400s? Why did that happen? Was Tesla a worse company? No. Okay, fundamentals are not all there is to the market. You also have to look at other important levels. You have to look at what happened with, with the Fed, with inflation, macroeconomics, earnings, things like that, and how the overall collective market performs. So I want everyone to know that. I want you all to be very, very careful. And I am seeing potential for us to try to fill this gap first. But anyways, that's what I have for this video. Please watch this level very carefully, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is still incredibly bright. And peace out.